gamma rays as radiations are said to be one of the carcinogens. If they enter into the body, they can cause mutation and they can make your proto-oncogenes to get activated and convert them into oncogenes and make them cancer, right? So this is the this is the concept. But in case of cancer treatment, they are supposing this gamma rays in your radiotherapy for this for killing the cancer cells. Okay, so already that oncogenes has got mutated, that is the proto-oncogenes has been converted into active oncogenes, and because it has happened of gene mutation that has already occurred. Okay, and when you are supposing these gamma rays into your body, you are not sending the gamma rays to other places where cancer cells are not present. Okay, so what they will do, they will cover your body with a green color cloth, and they will expose the area only where the cancer cells are present. So when gamma rays are allowed to subject in that particular area, so these gamma rays, as they are highly penetrating rays, they can cross your skin and it will enter into the body and it is going to target your cancer cells. And that is what we discussed, like there are some side effects because it is not only going to kill the cancer cells, but it will also affect the surrounding cells in the area. Okay, so other than this highly penetrating rays, cancer cells cannot be killed because they are what is that uncontrolled proliferating cells. So it is given as one of the treatment to control the cancer cells, not for inducing cancer in your body. Already cancer has been occurred, right? So to kill the cancerous cells, no way these treatment need to be given. Got it? Shruti Lavanya, I think like you got the answer for this question. Yes. So Ganesh, eighth question. Okay. So I will explain you in WhatsApp later. Okay, fine. Yes. Okay, ma. Right. So yesterday we were discussing about the two abiotic factors. One is temperature, another one is light. Now today let us start with the remaining two. Now the third abiotic factor what we are going to discuss is water. Okay. So directly we can go to the class as they are theory topics. I think you need not the revision. Fine. So yesterday we discussed with the introduction of ecology and then the 4 levels of biological organization of ecology. And out of the 4 levels, I told you in this chapter, we are going to discuss the first 2 levels, that is organism level and population level. Got it? Right. Now, organism level, we are going to study how organisms are going to be adapted to the environment. So this adaptation may be for the survival or for the process of reproduction. Okay. And this particular aspect of ecology is called as physiological ecology. Then we discussed about the several reasons for the formation of biomes. That is the seasonal variation of temperature and precipitation. Okay, right. And then the local variations taking place in the biome that may also lead to formation of different habitats. We discussed the different habitats, and whatever habitat we take, we have this components of abiotic and biotic factors, and under the abiotic factors only we are discussing one by one. So yesterday we discussed about temperature and light, and today now I am going to start with water. Okay, so students, every Wednesday I'll be for the first half an hour, and remaining half an hour sir will come, right? So today my class has been cancelled, so I will be handling the full hour session. Okay, so let us discuss the topic fully. Yeah. So now coming to this water, you know the importance of water, right? No living organisms can survive without water. And you know, all your living cell and the living body, the total body is made up of mainly 70 to 80% it is made up of water. Other than water, you have some biomolecules like carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, nucleic acids, etc., etc. Okay, right. Now coming to this water, water is also one of the important abiotic factor. Like your temperature and light, water is also one of the important abiotic factor, and water plays a very important role in influencing the life of the organisms. It influences the life of organisms. Influences in the sense it is the basic thing for all the metabolic activities taking place in the organism. Okay, so it influences the life of the organisms, and we know that life on earth has originated in water. You know, got it? Actually in your evolution chapter, but it has been deleted for you. Just for your information I will tell you, in evolution, you will study about the different theories how life originated in the universe. Okay, so till hydrosphere originated, no life was there. When what first in the initial period, only atmosphere was there. At about like 1000 degrees Celsius in the initial stage. Okay, you would have studied Big Bang theory somewhere in the articles or in your smaller classes. You would have studied how your universe originated. In that Big Bang theory, starting like when the atmosphere originated, right? It was about 100 degrees, sorry, 1000 degrees Celsius. Later, it reduced to 100 degrees Celsius when hydrosphere evolved. Okay, and only when hydrosphere originated, hydrosphere, you know, that is water. Only when water source came, life, living organisms started existing. Till that, no living organisms were found to be present in the universe. Okay, yes, there was, yeah, in the early stage there was no oxygen also. Only when photosynthetic organisms start originating, oxygen came into exist in the atmosphere. Okay, fine. Now, life on Earth has originated water, and without you cannot imagine any living organism because life can sustain only in the presence of. Okay, right. Now, coming to this availability of water. So this availability of water in the earth are of in different forms, right? So this availability of water, you can say it will be in the form of, actually the availability of water will be in the form of precipitation. Other than water sources, this availability of water will be in the form of precipitation. So this precipitation, again, this precipitation, right, it will be different in different biomes. It will be different in different biome. It will not be same. If you go to desert, the precipitation in the atmosphere, the availability of water in the atmosphere will be very less. Okay, it will be, that's why the air, you feel like it will be very hot. And if you go to some other cold regions, there the precipitation will be high, and that's why you can feel the chill or cool climate. Okay, so again, the water availability in the form of precipitation is going to be different in different biomes. And if you take that, for example, let me tell you, if you take desert, okay, in desert, the plants which are growing in the desert region and also the animals which are living in the desert region, they have some special adaptations. The plants and animals living in the desert region, right, they will have some special adaptations. You would have noticed some plants which are growing in the desert region, they will not grow in any other place. So these special adaptations are mainly for the scarcity of water, because you know in desert we will have very little rainfall, water availability will be very less, so scarcity will be more. Okay, so the water scarcity will be high, and based on the scarcity of water, some special adaptations will be present in the plants and also in animals. Yeah, so animals will have hump, not only hump, so many adaptations are there. We will discuss about the adaptations later. Okay, after completing this abiotic factors, we will discuss about what are the adaptations of plants and animals living in the desert region and in the extreme cold region. Right. So this is one thing. And if you go to like aquatic source. So aquatic source of water, river, lakes, ponds, or seas. So if you go to the aquatic source, the the pH and the chemical are very important. So in aquatic source, two important features are very important for the aquatic organisms to survive. One is the pH maintenance, and other one is the chemical composition of water. Chemical composition means mainly the sense of, okay. So in water is very important. Take your water, rivers, lakes, and salt. If you take marine water, seas, percentage, so based of salt or percentage of salt, the pH and chemical composition will vary. And this pH and chemical composition of water is plays a important role in the survival of aquatic organisms. Okay, so it plays a very important role in the survival of aquatic organisms, because if you just take a freshwater fish and put it in marine water, it will not, it will not survive, right? At the same time, if you put a marine fish in a fresh water, it let me tell you what is thing that will vary in the fresh water and in the water. So the main thing is the salt concentration. Salt concentration is a very, very important one, right? And this salt concentration in ppm. So you know what is ppm, right? Students, tell what is ppm? What is ppm? ppm is parts per million. Very good. Okay. So ppm is, those who didn't know, please write in the bracket parts per million. Fine. The salt concentration in ppm. This salt concentration can be replaced by a term called as salinity. Okay. So the percentage of salinity percentage in inland water. So what do you mean by inland water? Inland water is nothing but fresh water. In the inland water or in fresh water, the salinity percentage is about 5 or less than that. Okay. So it will be 5 or less than that. Okay. And if you go to the salinity percentage in sea or oceans, that is in marine water, you can call it as marine water. Okay. In sea or oceans, the salinity percentage will be like 25 to 35 percentage. It ranges between 25 to 35 percentage. And there are some areas where you will have 100 percentage or more than that salinity. 100 percentage or more than that, it will be present in hyper saline lagoons. Okay. In hyper saline lagoons, the salt percentage will be even 100 percentage or more than that. That is the reason why the freshwater animals cannot live in seawater for a long period due to what? Due to what reason? Can you tell? If a freshwater animal is like put it in a marine water, it will die due to, yes, due to osmotic problem. Have you studied in your last year 11th class transport in plants chapter about osmosis? Different, that is due to like isotonic solution, hypertonic and hypotonic solution, endosmosis, exosmosis. I think you would have studied all these concepts, right? So freshwater animals cannot live in marine water. The reason is due to osmotic problems. Okay. So due to this osmotic problem, that is due to the difference in their solute and solvent concentration, like the organisms will die if they are shifted from fresh water to marine water. The same happens when marine water is also transferred with the fresh water. Okay. So due to osmotic problem, this fresh water to marine and also marine to freshwater is impossible. The organisms will die. Reason, what is the reason why the freshwater animals cannot survive in marine water and marine water animals cannot survive in freshwater is the problem is osmosis. Okay. So due to osmosis taking place, osmotic problem, the organisms cannot survive. And again, as we discussed in temperature, here also you have two different things. The organisms that can tolerate in temperature, I told you, right? The organisms that can tolerate wide range of temperature and narrow range of temperature. Similarly, the organisms that can tolerate wide range of salinity and the organisms that can tolerate narrow range of salinity. Narrow range of salinity. Okay, there in temperature we called the organisms as eurythermal and stenothermal. Here, how can you call these organisms? Any idea? How can you call the organisms that can tolerate wide range of salinity and narrow range of salinity? First, tell me for wide range of salinity. What can be the term used? Euryhaline. Very good. Okay. It is called as euryhaline. And for narrow range of temperature, it is called as stenohaline. Okay. So euryhaline and stenohaline. So why you are using the word haline? What do you mean by haline? In your periodic table, you have halogens, right? So what are those halogens? FCl, BRI, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, right? All these are salts, right? They will be available only in the form of salt. So this halogen or haline means, which means the elements which can occur as salts. So that's why you are using the term euryhaline, stenohaline. Okay. So euryhaline are the one which the organisms that can tolerate wide range of salinity. And narrow range of salinity or the organisms called as stenohaline. Okay. That's all about your water concept. So water factor is over. I will show you the first 2 slides again. We'll just copy all the notes, then we can move on to the last factor, soil. Please copy down, students. This is the first slide. So have you all copied the first slide? So this is the second one. If you want to copy the second one, you can copy now. Students, I just want to tell you one more thing. Actually, in the test schedule that has been sent to you, it is wrongly, mistakenly typed. It is Unit 3 full chapter. Okay, it is not Unit 3. It is only human health and disease. Okay, you under Unit 3, the first chapter, human health and disease. Okay, so I just want to, like yesterday, some students asked me in WhatsApp. I replied to you whether it is Unit 3 or only that particular chapter. And next week you will have all the three, not all the three. You just omit strategies because it is not there for your syllabus, right? So you can read microbes in human welfare and human health and disease chapter. So next week under Unit 3, 2 chapters. You just exclude that strategies for enhancement because it has been deleted. Okay. So again, I'm telling, don't get confused with the schedule that has been sent to you. A mistake was there. It is not Unit 3. It is human health and disease chapter. Got it? Yeah, fine. Now we can move on to the last abiotic factor. The last abiotic factor what we are going to discuss is soil, which is a very, very, very important factor for the living organisms to survive. Okay. Yeah, so for NEET also, the portions that has been deleted in your 12th syllabus is not there. They won't ask you any questions from the deleted portions from your 12th. But from your 11th, we didn't get proper information that we have to confirm. You just wait for that information. So far, like as per the instructions of NTA, from your 12th syllabus, the portions that has been deleted will not be asked for your NEET final NEET exam. That is, you are going to appear for. Okay. Yes. So now listen, soil, actually there is a separate field to study about soil. Anybody have idea what is the field of study about soil? Like as we have a different field for study about something like plants, animals, like this, there is a field for the separate field there is for the study about soil. Can you tell me what is the name? The study of soil. The study of soil is called as pedology. This is a very, very important NEET question. It has been asked so many times in your exams. Okay. So it is called as pedology. Pedology. Don't put PAE. Okay. That is different. So this is pedology. Pedology. And when talking about soil, soil is an abiotic factor, you know. And this abiotic factor in particular, it is called as edaphic factor. The soil abiotic factor is called by the term edaphic factor. So edaphic factor means it will have lot of variations in its texture, composition, everything from one place to other place. Even in the within the same habitat, it will have lot of variations from one place to other place. Okay. And even temperature also varies, light also varies, water also varies. But once if you go to marine, like if you go to sea water, right? So the salt composition will be almost the same in the entire sea or ocean. And if you go to like a particular habitat, the temperature will be like almost the same in a particular habitat, like within a period. Okay. It may vary from season to season, but soil is not like that. If you take, just for example, I am telling you, if you take the habitat of Trichy, okay, if you move to one area, there you can see one different type of soil will be available, and the area which is next to that will have a different type of soil. So the soil composition will vary within the same habitat itself. It will vary from one place to another place, and that is meant by a term called as edaphic factor. Soil is an edaphic factor, and the study of soil is called as pedology. Okay, right. And you know how soil is formed, right? All of you know, right? Soil is formed by means of weathering process. You would have studied in your smaller classes. So different types of weathering are there, right? Physical weathering, chemical weathering, biological weathering. So all these you would have studied in your smaller classes. I don't want to explain. Weathering is how rocks will break down and it will help in the formation of this soil. Okay. So this, or because of these weathering product, that is weathering process, the soil actually it is weathered. How can you define soil? Okay. Soil is weathered. Why weathered? Because it is formed as a result of weathering. So I am telling soil is weathered, superficial. Superficial means the topmost or not in the deeper layers. Okay. Superficial layer of earth crust. You will have some big rocks over the earth surface, right? And those big rocks, when undergoes weathering, it will result in the formation of soil. So soil is weathered superficial layer of earth crust and which is intermixed with. Can you say soil? So okay, can you show me any soil without microorganisms? Not possible, right? So which is intermixed with the living organisms. Okay, so this is the definition of soil. So if you want to define soil, you can give the definition like this. Soil is weathered superficial layer of earth crust which is intermixed with the living organisms. And as I said, the nature and properties of soil will vary from place to place depending on so many factors. So let me tell you on what factors based on that the soil, the nature of and properties of soil will vary from place to place. You just copy the slide, then I will move on to the next one. Okay, so as I said, soil is an edaphic factor, the nature and the properties. Okay, the nature and the properties of soil varies from place to place. That is why the reason why it is called as an edaphic factor. Okay, some from place to place. Okay, why this nature and properties of soil vary from place to place? So what are the factors it depends upon? So it depending upon the factors like climate, depending upon the climate of the area, depending upon what weathering process is taking place, what type of weathering is taking place, and also based on the process of soil development. Okay, so and it what process it is going to undergo for the development of soil. So on all these factors, based on all these climate, weathering and process of soil development, the nature and properties of soil will vary from one place to other place. Okay, and you know plants are totally dependent on soil. Yes, plants are totally depend upon soil for their growth and development. So let me tell you what are the things that plants will depend upon soil for. It will depend upon soil for so many things, for nutrients, because they will get all the nutrients, micro and macronutrients from the soil. Okay, in the dissolved water. Then it will get water also from the soil. Water cannot be directly taken by the plants, right? So it will absorb the water from through the root hairs from the soil. And also for the fixing, how can you use the word fixing? Anchorage. Okay, so all these are the things where plants will depend upon the soil for. And finally, how this nature and properties, what are the nature and properties of the soil that will vary in the different places? The holding capacity, some soil will hold the plants very strongly. Okay, holding capacity will vary. The pH of the soil will vary from one place to other place. The percolation property, what do you mean by percolation? When you pour water, how the water is entering into the soil. In some soil, if you take sandy soil, water will percolate very easily and it will reach the bottom layer. If you take clayey soil and pour water, soil like for a long time the water will be like standing over the soil. It because the clay soil, the particle size is very less, right? So when the particle size are very less, the holes between them will be very minute, so water cannot easily percolate into that. So the percolation properties will vary. And then topography means that is based on the geographical area. Okay, And then mineral composition. Mineral composition also varies from one soil to other soil. All soil will not be fertile, right? Mineral composition. All these holding capacity, pH, percolation property, topography, mineral composition, all these things determine the type of vegetation in an area. If you want to do some vegetation means if you want to cultivate plants in a particular area, then you have to analyze all these characters based on the holding capacity, based on the pH, percolation property, topography, mineral composition. All these characters should be analyzed. Only then you can find out what type of plants can be grown in that particular area. See, if you move to north, mostly there will be black soil. So now paddy plants or something, pulses and all, they won't grow in the black soil. Cotton will grow well in black soil. Okay. So if you want to grow paddy, then you need loamy soil. Loamy soil will be prevailing mostly in the South India, right? So based on all these characters only, you have to choose the type of vegetation that can be cultivated in a particular area. And if a soil is said to be a good fertile soil, what should be the composition? A good fertile soil should be composed of certain things. So what is the first thing that should be most abundant in a good fertile soil is mineral matter, inorganic minerals. Okay. So these mineral matter means they are all inorganic minerals. Calcium, you would have studied in mineral nutrition in plants. So calcium, potassium, sulfur, magnesium, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, so many nutrients you would have studied, right? So all these inorganic minerals, it will be the maximum of 40% in a fertile soil. So next to this, water. Okay, water will be 25%, and air, percolation of air should be 25% in the inside the soil, and finally the organic matter. So how can you call this organic matter? It is the humus. Okay, so the organic matter is the humus, which comprises only 10%. Okay, which on later it will decompose and turn into manure. So this is your composition of a good fertile soil. If a soil is said to be a fertile soil, what should be the composition? So 50 plus 40, 90 plus 10, 100%. You got the 100% composition. Okay, right. Is now based on this composition, you can say the loamy soil is the best one for all types of plant growth. The first best soil is the loamy soil, which is best for all plant growth. Okay. And soil not only affects the plant growth, soil also affects some other process. Soil affects the seed germination. Sometimes if you are sowing a seed, if the soil is not a fertile soil, then seed germination will not happen. Okay. Then the growth of the plants also depends upon the soil, size of the plants, whether it is tall or short, anything. Then the depth of the root system. Okay. Root system, how far it is going deep into the soil. That is also dependent on the soil composition. Then what is that? Susceptibility. Okay. Susceptibility. So susceptibility means that is how the plants are able to sustain again conditions like frost or parasites, susceptibility to frost, parasites. Okay, drought condition is all these. So all these are for the sustainability of the plants. Then you can see flowering process in plants also depends upon the soil. Okay. So all these are the that is the things that will be affected in the plant growth because of soil. And coming to animals. Now, so so far I discussed about the plant growth, right? Coming to animals, what about the type of vegetation also determines the type of animals which it supports. So the type of vegetation determines the type of animals. Okay, what type of animals should survive in the particular area? It determines the type of. Okay, so also determines the type of animals that are existing in that particular area. Okay, so in case of aquatic environment, it is the type of sediments that determines the category of thriving organism. So if you go to aquatic environment, In aquatic environment also you have soil, right? Below the river, if the river beds, sea beds, everything will have soil. So in aquatic environment, it is the one which determines the type of organisms is the type of sediment. You know what is sediments, right? The one which is deposited at the bottom is called a sediment. This type of sediments, it determines the category of organisms. It determines the category of all plants and also animals. Determines the category of living organisms surviving in them. Okay, fine. So basically we have three different types of soil. Ma. This is for your additional information I am telling you. Loamy soil, clayey soil, sandy soil. Okay, these are the three basic things. From this you have so many subcategories: loamy, clayey soil, sandy loamy soil, like this. Okay, but when you go for this, the three main composition of soil, that is are the sand, silt and clay. If you go to loamy soil, silt percentage will be high. Silt percentage will be high. If you go to clayey soil, clay percentage will be high. And if you go to sandy soil, sand percentage will be high. Okay. And only if silt percentage is high, plant can grow very well. Okay. It supports plant growth. All types of plant can be grown in this loamy soil. So loamy soil is always the suitable soil for all types of plant growth. Okay. In clayey soil and sandy soil, only some plants will grow. Not all the plants can be grown in this what is it, clayey soil and sandy soil. Okay, I will show you all the slides now. Wait. So I think like yeah, from soil I will show you. So this is the third slide. Fourth one. Fifth one. Sixth one. So in your practicals, you have an experiment, not one experiment, you have three experiments based on soil samples. Okay. I think after one school reopens, they will conduct all these experiments, practicals you will be doing. So based on soil sample, they will give you soil samples and they will ask you to find the pH, and you will be comparing the soil samples for the water holding capacity, and another one is texture of soil. You will see, you will find the relative percentage of sand, silt and clay for the different soil samples. And for water holding capacity, you will find like how much percentage of water that a particular soil sample can absorb. And pH also, you will mix the soil with water and then you will use the wide range of pH paper and find out the pH. Okay, so these three experiments are there in your practicals part, based on the soil samples. Okay. Fine. Have you all finished? So abiotic factors are over with this. Okay. Now we are going to move on to the next topic, that is how do organisms respond to abiotic factors. Okay. So now please put the next heading. How do living organisms, okay, how do your organisms respond to abiotic factor? Okay, because I told you in the organism level, you are going to study about how organisms are interacted with the environment or how they are adapted to the environment. So directly we cannot move to the topic. That's why we discussed what are the factors that will be included in the environment. So we told like both biotic and abiotic will be present in a habitat, and we discussed so far the different abiotic factors that are needed for the survival of all living organisms. Okay, now we have completed the abiotic factors. Now you are like what is that, you'd have got an idea how organisms have to cope up with all these abiotic factors for their survival. And now we are going to see how do organisms respond to abiotic factors. And after this topic, we will directly move on to the important topic of your organism level, that is what are the adaptations carried out by the organisms for surviving in an environment. Okay, how do organisms respond to abiotic factor? You know, so far we discussed abiotic factors are temperature, light, water and soil. Now you should know how living organisms will respond to them. Respond in the sense, these abiotic factors will be like, see, suppose in desert usually the average temperature will be 40 to 50 degrees Celsius. Okay, now in our area, if you take the plain regions and all, the average temperature will be like 30 to 35 degrees Celsius. And when we are having summer season, the temperature will rise up to 40 to 42 something. And in desert, average temperature itself 45 to 50. When it is summer for them, what will happen? The temperature will rise further. Then it will cross 50 and it will be around 55 to 60 degree or 50 to 55 degrees Celsius. Then the organism surviving there, it will be like extremely hot for them. See, we cannot withstand this April, May, June summer season, right? Why? Because like it is more than the usual temperature and we are feeling very hot to sustain during that period, even though we are sustaining because we humans are said to be, we are warm-blooded animals and we are able to cope up with the temperature. Okay, because your body temperature always remain constant. It is not going to fluctuate based on your external temperature. But all living organisms do have this character. You in the living world, 11th standard living world chapter, you would have studied one concept called as homeostasis, maintaining an internal body environment or temperature, right? So that characteristic feature is not present in all living organisms, only some live. So if you take plants, do they have homeostasis? Plants are warm-blooded. Can they adapt themselves to what extremely hot or extremely cold temperature? No, it cannot, because they are not having that process. Okay, so only the organisms which are undergoing homeostasis, they can sustain, they can maintain the constant body temperature and they can cope up with any environmental condition. But all living organisms cannot do this. But oh yes, so the organisms which cannot do this, how they are called as, that is what we are going to discuss in this topic. Okay, so how do organisms respond to abiotic factors? So you all would have known like fitness of a species. Okay, so you would have studied fitness of species in your smaller class, that is survival of the fittest or fitness of species. Okay, so this fitness of species in a particular environment, like there is one environment, in that environment a species are able to sustain and it is able to reproduce and maintain its population, and that is called as fitness. Okay, so fitness, don't think physical fitness, okay, going to gym and all. Fitness of a species means if a species is able to maintain its population in a particular environment and they are able to survive in the environment, then it is called as fitness of a species. So this fitness of a species in a particular environment, right, it depends upon the efficiency of the organism. Okay, efficiency means what type of efficiency? It depends upon the efficiency of the physiological process and the biochemical process taking place in the body. The physiological and biochemical processes that are taking place within the organism. Okay, processes occurring within the body of the organism. It is not only human, I'm telling within the body of the organism. Okay, now only if these physiological process and biochemical process help them to maintain a particular condition in the body, then they will be able to survive in an environment and they can maintain the population and then follow the reproduction process. But this thing will not happen in all cases. Okay, some animals, that is what I want to tell you. Some animals, some animals, they maintain their body temperature. Fine, they maintain their body temperature means, see, even it is extreme hot in Trichy or any other place, during April, May, June, if you take, your body temperature will be constant, 35 to 37 degrees Celsius, right? Suppose if you are moving to December or January, okay, by the time you will have like what is that, some chillness will be felt. Okay, yeah, or if you're moving to Ooty or Kodaikanal, there it will be extremely cold, and there also your body temperature remains the same, 35 to 37. It is not like if you are moving to an area where there is a 0 degree Celsius, your body will also become 0 degree Celsius. Your body will always be maintaining the same temperature, constant temperature. Okay, so this characteristic feature will not be present in all living organisms. Some animals, they maintain their body temperature, or you can call it by another term which you can say is osmotic concentration. The osmotic concentration of your body fluid. Okay, when you're talking about body temperature, you can say it is temperature. But when talking about body fluid is your blood, right? So your blood will have this, you would have studied in excretion chapter. The osmotic concentration of the body fluid will also be maintained. Okay, so it will also be in the osmotic concentration of the body fluid will be in the optimum level. Optimum level means that is in the needed level. You know what is the pH of your blood, right? So what is the pH of your blood, students? It is strongly acidic or slightly acidic or strongly alkaline or slightly alkaline. What is the pH of human blood? Nobody knows. Slightly acidic. Slightly acidic. Oh my god. One student has sent me 1.2. 1.2. Our cells will die if it is 1.2. It is 7.4. Exactly 7.4. Some are sending me 7, 7.16, 7.8 and all. It cannot vary like this. Okay, your blood is slightly alkaline or slightly basic. Always the pH is 7.4. It should be maintained in our body. Blood is circulating all over your body. Even the pH varies 1 or 2, 1 plus 1 or minus 1 or plus 2 or minus 2, not plus 1. Even 0.1 it cannot vary. Okay, the 0.1, if it varies also, your body like biochemical process that are taking place in your blood will be affected. Okay, it should maintain always 7.4, right? So that is your osmotic concentration of body fluid to the optimum level, means the level that should be present in our body, and it will always maintain a constant, we will have a constant internal environment. So this maintaining a constant internal body environment, this is what I told you. You can use a term called as homeostasis. Okay, so some animals maintain the body temperature constantly, or they will maintain the osmotic concentration of body fluids to the always in the optimum level, or they will maintain the constant internal environment, which we call it as homeostasis. So their performance, all these performance, right, is the maximum regardless of the weather condition outside the body, because these animals, they do not depend, the organisms who are maintaining homeostasis, they do not depend on the external weather condition. Okay, the external weather condition is even hot or even cold, it does not depend upon the weather condition. They will be always maintaining a constant internal body environment. Okay, but sometimes then you can ask me one thing. Okay, you are maintaining a constant body temperature, why in summer we are putting AC, or why in winter we are using room heaters and all? That is, this is like, do not depend on the external weather condition. That is in normal condition, normal performance. Okay, normal performance will be like, because of your if your body is maintaining homeostasis, you can do the normal performance. But during summer, suppose if you are inside your house, right, when you are sleeping, the external temperature it will, like, the hotness will be felt in your room. Then what happens, when you are feeling so hot, you cannot sleep properly, you cannot do your work properly. So in all these cases, to maximize the working efficiency, to maximize, when you are feeling so hot or cold, you cannot do your work properly. Like, okay, if see, if you would have noticed, like, if you're going to Ooty or Kodaikanal in the extreme cold season, okay, the temperature will be 0 or less than that. You will not just come out of the bed sheet, and you will not get down even for going to washroom. You will feel like so cold. Okay, automatically your working efficiency is getting reduced, because the environmental condition is not optimum, it's not favorable for you. Then what you will do, if you want to be normal, then you will switch on the room heater. Once when you switch on the room heater, your room temperature will slowly get rise and it will come to the normal temperature. If the temperature becomes normal, then you will be able to do your work efficiently. Okay. So to maximize the working efficiency, we are using human, not all animals. Okay. Or not all animals. Human uses this air conditioner. Okay. AC will be used, or that is in summer. In summer, we will use AC or air coolers or something, and in winter we will use the heaters or blowers. Okay, heaters or blowers in winters. This is not for like don't think like AC will drop down your body temperature. Your body temperature will always be remaining constant. That is to reduce the room temperature and to increase the room temperature in winter season, we are using all these things only to maximize the working efficiency. Because like if the room temperature is not optimum, then you cannot sustain in that, right? So this is the thing. But the animals, however, have natural means, mainly some physiological changes or biological changes that is happening in your body to maintain all these stressful condition. Okay. Now, what I told you is, based on all these things, we have three categories of animals. So this is the main concept. Okay. So how do organisms respond to abiotic factor? The main concept is we are going to categorize the animals, okay, into that have the three categories of animals that have specific ways to respond to external environment. So based on how organisms, not only animals, you put organisms, because we are going to include plants also in this. Okay. So three categories of organisms based on the ways how they are responding to external environment or abiotic factors. So what are the three categories of animal organisms? The first one is conformists. The second one, regulators. And third one is partial regulators. So on what basis you are categorizing the organisms into three types? The three categories are based on how organisms respond to abiotic factors or respond to environment, external environment, not internal environment. Okay. Based on external environmental condition, how organisms are going to respond. Based on that, we are going to classify the organisms into three categories: conformists, regulators, and partial regulators. So I will give you one overall graph, then I will explain one by one. Okay. So this is graph. One is based on the external environment, external level. Okay. And this one is your internal level of the organisms. That is the internal condition of the organism. By comparing this external environmental condition and internal body temperature condition, I am going to plot one graph. See, one is straight. Okay. One will be parallel to the external level. If the external level increase, see 10, 20, 30, you can put whatever units. This will also increases. If external temperature is 0 degrees Celsius, the body temperature of those organisms will also be 0. If the external temperature is 10, then the body temperature will be 10. If the external temperature is 60, then the body temperature will also increase to 60. And this is always constant. Okay. So this is said to be conformist. And this is said to be regulator. Okay. Sorry. Yes, this is conformers, this is regulators, and one more thing I have to draw, right? You put like this. Till particular thing, they will be like this. After, it will be like this, and this is called as partial regulators. So conformers, regulators, partial regulators. Okay. Conformers, in the sense they are going to be like, they depends upon the external. Sorry, I just told wrongly. So conformers, and the regulators are always, they maintain a constant body temperature, and partial regulators are up to particular condition they will maintain. After that, they cannot maintain. Then they will either go for winter sleep or summer sleep or something. Okay. So we are going to discuss one by one now. So first, let us see about conformers. You just put first category of organism. Conformers. Among the living organisms, who all will come under conformers? So all your plants, nearly all plants will come under conformers. Because plants, they do not have the process of maintaining a constant body temperature or environment, internal body environment. So nearly all plants, and in animals, 99% of animals. 99% means majority, okay? Majority of animals, not 100% of animals, because human will not come under this. Human and some animals will not come under this. 99% of animals, which we say like majority of animals, and nearly all plants, 100% of all plants, okay? They all comes under conformers because they do not have the property of maintaining a constant body temperature. They do not maintain a constant internal environment. That is, what do you mean by this? Homeostasis will never occur in these organisms, in plants and in majority of animals. Wait, I will tell you about birds. Don't get hurry, okay? I will tell you. Birds will come under later, okay? So cannot maintain a constant internal environment. So what happens if they are not able to maintain a constant internal environment? Their body temperature and osmotic concentration. Just now I told you in the introduction, right? The body temperature and osmotic concentration of the fluid, these two things will changes. Changes according to what? Changes according to the surrounding condition or environmental condition. According to the surrounding condition, right? If the external environment is so cold, then your body temperature will also drop down. If the external temperature is so hot, then the body temperature will rise up. So based on the external conditions, okay, the body temperature and osmotic concentration also varies. So such organisms are called as conformers. Such organisms are called as conformers. Which organisms? If you want to define conformers, how can you write? If the body temperature and osmotic concentration of the organism changes according to surrounding environmental condition, then those organisms are called as conformers. Okay, right. Now, why I will tell you, see, the reason is actually both the body temperature maintenance can be called as thermal regulation process. Temperature can be called as thermal, right? So thermal regulation process and also osmotic concentration is osmoregulation. Okay, this thermoregulation and osmoregulation both are said to be, both these processes are energetically expensive process. Both these process are energetically expensive, means they will use lot of energy for maintaining the body temperature and maintaining the osmotic concentration in our body. That is why a vast number of animals have not adopted the that is the process of maintaining a constant internal body environment, that is homeostasis. See, in your board exam they can ask you this question: why the conformers, they are not able to maintain a constant body temperature and osmotic concentration? Reason is this: maintaining body temperature and osmotic concentration, both these process are energetically expensive process. So energetically expensive process in the sense they will they will use lot of energy. Okay, it is an energy expensive process, and so that is why vast number of animals are not able to maintain a constant internal body environment, and still it is more difficult for smaller animals. This thermoregulation and osmoregulation process, no, it is more difficult. It is very difficult for smaller animals. Can you say why it is more difficult for smaller animals? Smaller animals always, they will have larger body surface area. They have larger body surface area in comparison to their volume. Okay, in comparison to their body volume. So if you take small animals like ant, okay, so can you see smaller animals in polar region? If you move to polar region, only the animals seen there will be big animals. They will not be smaller. Okay. Why? Because the reason is smaller animals have larger body surface area in comparison to their volume. So when you compare this, so that is surface area and volume. When you compare the surface area and volume ratio for the smaller animals, the surface area will be larger when compared to the volume. If surface area is more, then what happens? Such organisms, where those organisms who are having larger body surface area and compared to their volume, such organisms tend to lose their body heat very fast. Body heat will be lost very fast for those organisms. Tend to lose their body heat very fast. See, just imagine if they are losing their body heat very fast, how the body heat will be retained in the body. If body heat is not retained, they cannot survive in the cold temperature, right? So that is the reason you can write, that is the reason when it is cold outside, when the external temperature is cold, when it is cold outside in the external environment, okay, so, or when they want to expend much energy, they want to expend much energy to cool the body when it is hot outside. Okay, so in both these conditions, smaller animals cannot survive. When it is cold outside, they have to retain the body heat. But what happens? When the body surface area is more when compared to their volume? They will lose their body heat. When they lose their body heat, when it is cold outside, they cannot sustain. At the same time, they have to expend much energy to cool the body when it is hot outside. Both these things are not possible for smaller animals. Okay, so that is the reason why, this is the reason, one of the reason why smaller animals are rarely found in polar region. Why smaller animals are rarely found in polar regions? You can write the reason. So this is a very, very important board question. It can be asked in your 2 marks. Every time they are asking this 2-mark question, why smaller animals are rarely found in polar region. If they are asking you this question, what you have to write? Okay. It is for smaller animals, they have larger body surface area in comparison to their volume. This will tend the smaller animals to lose their body heat very fast. If they are losing their body heat, they cannot retain inside the body, so they cannot sustain in extremely cold regions, and so they are rarely found in the polar regions. Okay, that's it. So conformers are over with this. I will stop here. We will continue with regulators and partial regulators tomorrow. I will show you all the slides from the beginning, students. In the last few minutes are there. So from the first, I will show you first 6, 7 slides. I think like I can show you very fast because already you have copied it. Second one. Third one. Fourth one. Fifth one. Sixth one. 7. 8th slide. From this slide, I will show you slowly because after this, we started a new topic. How do organisms respond to abiotic factors? Okay. Ninth slide. Tenth slide. Eleventh one. Ninth one. Wait. So this is ninth one. Ninth slide. 10th one. 11. blood pH increases. If your blood pH increases, then it will become more alkaline. Okay, strongly alkaline. Strongly alkaline nature will not allow some metabolic reactions to take place. For example, I will tell you, if oxygen wants to bind with your hemoglobin, so oxyhemoglobin formation will take place, right? So this oxyhemoglobin formation, it will occur only in the pH of 7.4. If it is acidic or alkaline, it will not happen. Okay, so such whatever biochemical reactions taking place in your blood, right? So those chemical reactions are based upon the pH condition maintained in your blood. If your blood is becoming too acidic or too basic, then automatically all these biochemical reactions will be affected. So again, this is 8th slide now. 7th and 8th slide. Okay. 7th one. This is 7th one. Yeah, internal metabolic activities also affects the body temperature. Yes, of course. All your series of metabolism taking place in your body will help you to maintain the body temperature. It is not one process. It is not, don't think like body temperature is sort of one chemical reaction. It is some series of chemical reactions taking place. Okay. All those reactions, if occur properly, then the body temperature will, that's why in fever condition, your digestion process, respiration process are all getting affected, because so many metabolic reactions are being affected when there is increase in your body temperature. 11th one. Last 3 slides I will show you again. 10, 11, 12, and okay. So you all tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll discuss about the regulators and partial regulators. Okay. Thank you. புக் மேல தானே வச்சிருக்கேன் நான் பாறை மேல வைக்க. ஏய் அடுத்த கிளாஸ் இருக்குல்ல.